Don't ruin your life. Women, learn how to defend yourselves. In a previous video, I advised teaching your kids how to fight. That is, how to physically defend themselves. But I want to emphasize this advice for older girls and women. As discussed in the previous video, many women find it hard to imagine themselves as the victim of violent crime or actually refuse to do so as a form of magical protection. But it's a fact that there are mentally warped men who every day do terrible things to women. Their motivation could be sick sexual desires, a sick need to dominate other people, or the sick willingness to commit robbery. In all cases, women generally provide less chance of resistance. The number of women who are victims of these crimes, that is, the number of women beaten, kidnapped, tortured, raped, and murdered, would surely be much smaller if they learned how to fight. For most women, physically hurting another person is the most difficult obstacle to overcome in being effective in real-life self-defense. When fighting, the usually desirable trait of empathy, that is, vicariously feeling another person's pain or imagining that pain in advance of inflicting it, works against them. But when your life is in danger from an attacker, you must completely turn off empathy. To some extent, you can do this by practice sparring in a martial arts school or with a personal trainer where you're actually kicking or hitting another person, usually with both of you wearing protective gear. You can further reduce the reluctance to hurt another person through regular, realistic visualization. That is, imagining yourself being attacked and instantly fighting back. In a fight for your life, damaging or incapacitating your attacker must become your single overwhelming goal. You must develop the mindset that you will never let anyone violently subdue you or abduct you. If you don't have a friend, boyfriend, or husband who can teach you how to fight, join a martial arts school that teaches realistic self-defense techniques. For the most part, this excludes traditional karate, aikido, and similar schools, which waste a lot of time on formal movement routines and/or complicated, unrealistic maneuvers. Instead, I suggest joining a Krav Maga class, which isn't ideal martial arts training, but it's better than most. Krav Maga is mainly based on simple, powerful body movements, which is exactly what you want. If there's someone local who can teach you street fighting, that works too. The crucial defect in many commercial martial arts schools is that, for safety and legal liability reasons, they don't allow sparring, actual person-on-person fighting. Even in those establishments that include sparring, most will not allow you to strike an opponent's head, eyes, nose, mouth, throat, groin, or knees, even if you're both wearing protective gear. In other words, you'll be conditioned not to hit the actual places that you want to hit or kick in a real fight. Ideally, you should find a school where you can practice fighting while wearing protective gear and you can hit or kick the body's most vulnerable spots. There will still be some limitations, but this is far better than deliberately training yourself not to strike key anatomical targets. You can also train yourself to overcome the reluctance to hit or kick another person by buying a human-shaped training dummy and regularly practicing full power strikes and kicks to these vulnerable and often fight-stopping spots. Another useful training aid is a regular cylindrical heavy bag, but unless you can visualize it as being another person, it isn't as effective in overcoming reluctance to hit or kick someone. Don't forget that when fighting for your life, your body isn't your only weapon. Use anything else available. Rocks, sticks, bottles, dirt thrown into an attacker's eyes. And don't forget that your teeth, biting, can be used against an opponent. Remember this too. You don't have to become an expert fighter. What you need to learn is so-called dirty fighting or street fighting, which is actually save-your-life fighting. The second most difficult obstacle to overcome in becoming an effective real-life fighter is ignoring any injuries or pain and continuing to fight. For most people, I know of only two ways to prepare for this. The first way is to allow people to hit you with padded feet, hands, and even sticks, either while you're sparring or simply standing in place. This training accustoms you to the startling shock of having your body struck. If there's no medical reason to prohibit it, get a suitable helmet and take light slaps to the head. They don't have to be very hard because in a real fight, your adrenaline levels will temporarily minimize perceived pain, often even the pain from a bullet or knife wound. Again, the idea is to get used to the unusual sensory input. The second way to prepare yourself for overcoming pain and continuing to fight is to develop, through visualization and internal verbal repetition, the mindset that even if you're hit, kicked, cut, shot, or otherwise injured, you'll ignore it for now and continue fighting. Whatever damage is done to you, whatever pain it causes, you'll deal with it after you overcome or escape from your attacker. In addition to becoming proficient with using your own body and makeshift weapons to defend yourself, you should carry a can of pepper spray. This is the common name for oleoresin capsicum, or OC spray. Be sure it's the kind with its own propellant gas and not the kind you have to pump with your finger. In any situation where you might be attacked, keep it in your hand or in an outside holster. Pepper spray is far better than nothing, but you shouldn't depend on it. It can be knocked from your hand, or your attacker may avoid the spray, or you might accidentally spray yourself. Have it, but don't depend on it completely. Some additional notes on self-defense and human predators. 1. Be aware of your surroundings. Look around, pay attention constantly. When jogging or out in public, don't listen to music or radio programs on headphones. Put away your cell phone. Being aware of possible danger means you may avoid having to fight for your life. 2. You may have heard people say, violence never solved anything, or violence is never the answer. A person making such a statement is either a fool or a shallow thinker. On a personal level, each and every day, violence delivered by law enforcement officers or ordinary citizens solves attacks on innocent people by lunatics, homicidal robbers, rapists, and murderers. On a national level, violence in the form of war has ended the horrific depredations of many sociopathic leaders. Violence should never be preferred as the first solution to every problem, but sometimes circumstances make it the only practical and effective solution.